Can I say something, Scott?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me reverse my camera here. And I really appreciated the fact that you mentioned, right, that you could turn that carbide on a 45-degree angle, right? And when I'm doing like the inside of drums and things like that, I have these little tips, right? What I've done is all these fit into a 3/8 hole. So I can put them on my hollowing system or I can put them on um, any tool handle. So what I do, I don't know if you can see it or not.
Yep, I see it. I got it.
Okay. But if you take where now that's one of those little tips that's not square. It's got a little bit of a rounded thing. But what you can do is you can twirl that. I just have a flat, and you can twirl that to any angle on the tip, and you make sure that the back side. I don't know if I can.
Looks rounded.
What?
It looks rounded on the backside.
Yes. And so if you'll see that the carbide tip and where I've rounded off the mounting thing, the carbide tip sticks over that edge so that the bottom edge does not interfere. And you can turn that on a 45-degree angle and you can twist that cutter when you're in on your hollowing things or whatever. And guess what? Now you can make shear cuts with it up, and the backside of the standard cutters do not interfere. What you're doing is you're turning that up at that 45, and you're actually using the bevel on the back of the cutter as support for the shear cut. And I just use that little thing all the time. And then I can take another thing. What I did is I just welded, still goes in the tool handle or in your hollowing tool or whatever, right? I just took the piece and bent it and I welded it, and I can stick a little cutter in there. And then uh, if I want to do negative rake angle shear scraping, then I can attach that same thing. I can attach any type of scraper on it, put a negative rake, twist it at any angle, right? And
Yep.
it is slick as a trick. So instead of just being uh, with that cutter coming down and not being able to use the bevel angle of the cutter, right? It's very prohibitive if you're going to try to do these different things like the inside of vessels, things like that. Then you can always put a little tip, right? A little straight cutter tip or whatever. So I have a 3/8 thing that sticks in there, and I have either round ones or angled holes through them. See that? Or the flats that I can attach, but it is just very handy. But definitely, and definitely, right? Keep your tool, that little carbide tip, keep it sharp. And then just the lightest little pressure will make gorgeous, if you can twist them up, make absolutely gorgeous shear cuts, and you'll pull little curls off with it.
Mark,
Yes.
where are you getting those 3/8 shaft extensions from? Or are
Um,
you using
Michael,
Forstner bit extensions?
I get them from Michael Hare. He makes them and sells them. Michael Hare,
All right, Michael
and
Hare.
I'll get I'll send you the number and you can put it on the.
Okay.
But he goes
Carbide
around.
makes them too.
He goes around to these symposiums and he sells a lot of things. So I've got, I don't know, 20 or 30 of these things. and I've got different configurations on every one of them, and I can twist them and turn them. And that way I can just, I can use one tool handle,
Right.
right? Or the end of on my hollowing tool, and just go in there, use a reducer and do whatever I need on it.
Right.
But very
Yeah.
good presentation, Scott.
Thanks, Mark.
Very good. Very good. Very good.
Comes from the machining background my dad taught me.
Well, I do a lot of things where I make tools that do the job for me.
Right? It's more enjoyable when you can make it, right, Mark?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Mark, we got a question asking whether you make your cutters or if you buy them.
No, these are bought. I think that's one of these, this one's one of those easy tool cutters. I think this came with a Sorby set, but I've got all different kinds of configurations. I've even got things that I can go in there. If you deal with Sorby, they make even like bead cutters and things like that that you can go in there and
Okay.
do around.
Yep.
But yeah, it's really fun. In fact, I made Katie Navarro a tool today out of aluminum. I cut a piece of aluminum so that she could make some of her little doozy wobbits. Those little things that I make, the little
Yeah.
things with the little finials.
Right.
So something I found out this week, and maybe everybody else knows it, but I've been using my box tool rests with my Easy Wood and my homemade ones. And I find my box tool rest works a lot better than a standard tool rest. It takes a lot of the vibration out because you got more tool in contact with the tool rest. So I don't have as much vibration out on the tip end, and it seems like they cut better.
Yep. I would agree. You're able to support it further down.
Yep. You're supporting the tool further back, closer to the handle.
AC Carbide has a wide selection of cutters to choose from as well, and their prices are great.
Yes, they are.
And Craft Supplies out of Utah just came out with a set of carbide cutters that are half the price of Easy Woods, and I don't know if you could tell the difference.
Oh, that's good to know.
I think they call them Red Line or Red Crown. They're red something, Red Devils, something like that.
Yeah, I saw their advertisement.
They just hit the catalog within the last 30 days, probably.
Okay.
More
Great.
competition. Bring those prices down. Outstanding.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing you can do, like Mark had those little cutters there, you can take, Matt made that tool with the ball end mill in it. You could just take a piece of 1/4-inch rod, flatten the top off, drill your hole, screw your cutter to it, and now you could use that. Take your ball end mill out, slide that 1/4 or 3/8 rod in there, and you'd have just a little short cutter. You'd only need this much steel. A 3-foot bar would make a lot of different cutter shapes. You could bend them, heat them up and bend them with a torch, and make them any configuration you want.
Yeah. Scott, do you remember a few times back when I showed my different box rests and to go inside the hollow forms?
Yep.
Yes.
Remember the curved ones and all that?
Yes.
And they are fantastic because you reduce the vibration and you increase the safety, and don't ever go down inside, right, of any type of hollow form without some type of flat box rest, so that you never go below the center of rotation and get that hollowing tool sucked under.
Yep. Yeah, I'm actually going to make some curved ones. Those are the next next ones I'm going to make. And that's partially the reason I made this one with a bolt. So now I can take this off and I can put any shape, form, whatever I want on there anytime I want.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I only need one post. And then I can make this bar any shape that I want to make it.
Absolutely. Just make a figure 6. Do you want me to go out in the shop and show it again?
Sure, why not, Mark?
I'd like to see it, Mark.
Give me a half a second.
Time's up.
I'll be back. I got to get out of this lazy boy.
All right, we'll take you off spotlight.
All right.
Anybody else got any other questions?
No, I think I've been getting them all answered or asked. You've been getting them all answered as they come through.
So this is round bar that I bought at Tractor Supply too, that fits in your tool rest. And you don't have to do anything to it. You just cut it off whatever length you need.
And tap.
Made quite a few rests already.
Okay, and then you just tap the end.
Yep, I cut it off. I put it in my jaws, my pin jaws,
Mm-hmm.
and drill the hole in the end and go from there.
Cool. Okay. And it's just rolled bar stock, right?
Yeah, it's just cold rolled steel.
Okay.
This piece was 3 foot long. I mean, it's $42 for a 3 foot stick of this, but you're only using 6 inches of it.
Yeah, and
like 5 to 6 inches of it, depending on your situation. Now, like for your mini lathe, I think you got to have 5/8 bar stock.
That's exactly right, 5/8.
So 5/8 bar stock is considerably cheaper.
All right, now the rest itself that you made is that also rolled steel? Cold?
Yep, so that was all bought at Tractor Supply, or you can buy it at Tractor Supply.
Yeah, I love Tractor Supply. I could live there.
Yeah, it's pretty much all mild steel between the box stores that you're able to purchase.
Yeah, most of them are cold rolled or hot rolled. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And about 2 years ago, Scott he demoed drilling the bar stock, with the bar being chucked up in the headstock and his drill and the appropriate size and the Jacobs chuck and he drilled out the bar, just to show that mild steel can be drilled on your lathe.
And slow. Good. Just remember, you got to drill it slow.
Yep, and you got to use cutting oil. Some type of.
Use some form of cutting oil. It can be motor oil. It can be 3-in-1 oil. If you're really
Marble mystery oil,
vegetable oil,
mystery oil,
marble mystery oil. That's what it's called.
Yep, Marble's mystery oil, that works good too.
Yeah, I've got 3-in-1.
That's good for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I made it into my shop.
Awesome.
It's easier to get your hole centered if you use a starter bit too.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, you ready, Scott?
Yep, go ahead, Mark.
Okay. All you're doing, you can take it and put your screw on top the way you made your little flat box rest.
Yep.
You there, Scott?
Yeah, I'm watching.
Yeah, we're there.
Oh, okay. So what I did, right? All this is a number like a 6, right? And it's got a little gusset welded on.
Yep.
And then what it does, it fits inside the hole of your hollow form. That way you can move it all the way in and you can follow it down. And so this is never more than an inch away from the wall. And it just is so safe, it's unbelievable. And then for the deeper ones, right, I have this long one that just got a gusset welded and it goes in the chest. And that goes down inside 13 inches. So that's inside the hollow form. And then your hollowing tool is on top of that. It can never go below center. that way.
Right.
And it gives you so much support and safety, right? And when you take that sine wave, vibration, that sine wave out of the hollowing, it's so much smoother, so much smoother.
Yep, that's what I'm finding too, Mark.
And then you can make, I've got the little ones. Hang on just a second. I'll go over here. And here's what's nice about this is
What?
that these, when you're hollowing on the mini lathe, let me just open this up real quick. See if I can find it. Somewhere in there. And, well, I don't know. I have them made with the 5/8, with the 5/8 for, I don't know where it is. But anyway, I've got a straight one, a straight box rest, and a little curved box rest with a 5/8 thing, so it fits on the mini lathe.
Yep.
Let me turn this around. There we go. All right.
There he is.
Yeah, but that was a very, very good demonstration, and I'm so glad that you showed people how to sharpen things. I keep the diamond hones, right on my lathe and all that all the time. It's so important that you have a super sharp tool if you're doing little tiny finials and little tiny things. Turning with a sharp tool is safer and it's so much more pleasure.
It
Yep.
helps too with the big stuff too, Mark.
Yeah. But anyway, see, there's some more of those little things. Can you see those?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, they're beautiful as ever.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you for that nice demo.
Welcome.
And I didn't want to interfere, but I wanted to just enhance that idea that you can turn those when you can turn those little cutters around. You can turn them at different angles, and you can set them up. And if you set up a little taper away so that bevel will rub, you can use them as tremendous, almost finishing shear scrapers.
Yeah. Yep.
But you've got to keep that fresh edge on them.
Right.
Yes. Yep. And you got to break yourself of the tendency to do that stabbing motion, because the majority of, when somebody goes and looks up a video on how to use them, it's all about, flat on the bar and straight into the piece and just hogging away and then laying on it with sandpaper when they're done. And you can definitely get a better cut than that by rotating the bar and doing slicing cuts, Mark. That's for sure.
And they've got the round tip, they've got that partially
Oh yeah,
round tip, they've got the square
concave,
tip and all
the
that.
convex,
Yeah.
convex square. Yep.
Yep.
I know. I like them for doing end grain hollowing.
And you can make it a little bit smoother, any of these tips, right? If you'll just take and put a little bit of a negative rake on that, it becomes so much safer. And just, tiny bites, sharp tools, and how slow can you go? The woodturner's mantra.
Right.
Right.
Let the tools do the work.
Amen.
Sue, for drill and round bar, you can also get one of these to center it in the bar.
Yes.
This
But
is
what-
the center drill.
Center
Center
drill.
drill? Okay.
Yeah. And they come in different sizes. Here's a bigger one. It's a little one. I usually use this first when I'm starting to drill a piece of bar stock on my lathe.
Okay.
Keeps it from wandering.
It keeps the drill bit from
Yes, it
wandering.
does.
You're correct, Mark.
And tell me what the name of that thing is again?
The center
That's a
drill.
center drill.
Center drill? Okay.
And you could
It,
get away with using the
it has
Harbor
a lot
Freight
of
set.
meat. It has a lot of diameter meat and a short point. That means it doesn't flex as much. So
Right.
Right.
it'll get you a good start, and then you can follow up with a standard drill bit.
That is correct. But you got to
You
make
can
sure
use
you
a
get one the right
standard.
size for your tapped hole, so you don't.
Exactly.
We don't overdo it.
So you don't overdo it. That's correct.
So I know that there's a whole box of wire drills up north, but I'm not going up there. So they're not too expensive, are they?
No, and what I would do, Sue, if you know what size one you need,
Yeah.
I would just buy the individual drill bit and keep it with the tap.
Okay. Got it.
And so
one of the things I've
most-
seen in a shop is a guy who does a lot of that sort of thing, making his own tools. He basically masking tapes the drill bit to the tap. So he looks in his drawers and they're all just taped together. So
Right.
the drill bit is always with the tap.
Yeah, because when they get down in like that number 43, I had to use my 4-power magnifiers to read the number on the.
So, Sue, a lot of the majority of the time, you can buy the drill bit and the tap together as a set.
Okay. Got it.
And a
Irwin
lot of
sells
times,
them
like
like that.
if you buy good ones from Mastercar or even the
Barrett
Irwin
sells
tools, a lot
Mhm.
of Irwin taps, a lot of times they'll tell you what drill bit size you need on the packaging.
Yep.
And they're not always wire drills. Sometimes they are a standard drill.
Right.
Sometimes it's a letter drill.
Yeah, and sometimes it's a letter drill, which I have a whole set of them too.
Can I say one more thing about drilling that
Sure.
is so important? It makes a difference. If you're going to use a Jacobs chuck or if you're going to use a taper drill, right? You must periodically clean your tailstock and your headstock, whichever way you're going. Clean those Morse tapers out, because if you have one bit of sawdust in there and you put a drill in there or a Jacobs chuck, there is no way you will keep it center. It'll start to wobble because it is not on dead center.
That's correct. And you should be cleaning those anyways when you're checking to make sure your headstock and tailstock are in alignment.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
I do that now, but yeah.
Anytime you're pulling something in or out, where you put something in, you should always clean it before you put it in.
Scott,
I had a heavy piece on the lathe the other day, and I noticed that it wasn't running true when I went to turn the spindle, and it was because it had vibrated enough with that big heavy piece that it knocked it out of level, believe it or not.
wow. Okay.
So you got to check that periodically too. Just don't assume that because you set it up that way, it was level once, that it stays that way. Because obviously, when you get something that slides it across the floor or vibrates it hard enough that it wants to slide across the floor, you're knocking it out of level.
Okay.
So when you go to do something between centers, or you're going to put something back in it that's between centers, it may not be on center anymore.
All right. I'll check that out.
It's a good
So what
tip
I was
for
going to
everybody.
tell you, Scott, I normally wear 3.5 or 4 readers. And in order to read stuff, I need a super magnifying glass on top of that. So it's like, I do what I can.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know some people that actually will color code their taps and drill bits, so they know.
That's a good idea, and just have a chart there so you can look at it and say, okay,
Well,
blue is this size and red is this size. Yeah.
The people I know that are doing it use fingernail polish, and look at all the different colors of fingernail polish. All you gotta do is match up the color with the color of the tap, right?
Well, yeah, but I haven't worn fingernail polish in 25 years. I'm not going to start now.
I've never worn fingernail polish, but I probably got 5 or 6 bottles laying around here in the shop.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I've never worn fingernail polish either, and I bet I've got 50 bottles of fingernail polish.
Really?
Yeah, I use it for Mark Sillay.
Back when
Works great.
For back when I turned pins a lot. painting the inside of the tubes or the blanks.
Is that what you were using? Was fingernail polish and not paint?
Yes. Yeah, I use fingernail polish.
Do you do it on the brass tubes or inside the?
I paint a drilled blank.
Yeah, I paint the blank
Okay.
too. I don't paint the metal. I paint the blank.
Okay. Well, I was painting the blank, but I was using acrylic. Okay.
That works.
That's just it works, but it fingernail paint is thinner than the acrylic paints.
Yeah.
Just make sure you don't use super glue to glue your tubes in if you're using fingernail polish though.
Yeah, but you could use epoxy, couldn't you?
You can use epoxy.
Yes.
You can't use super glue because standard super glue, you probably could use Parfex, but the standard super glue is acetone based, and that's what removes
It'll
fingernail
eat
polish
through
from your fingernail.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, Parfex
I
is
use
fine.
I use Gorilla Glue because it expands when it dries. You just wet the tube and then you put the Gorilla Glue in there, and guess what? It expands
Yeah.
and it takes up
Right.
all the loose space.
Right.
Right.
Easy.
I know a couple
But
of
if you
people.
drilled it right, you shouldn't have any loose space, right, Mark?
Well, you will, depending on the like if you got some soft box elder or Buckeye burl,
Yeah.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
that's real soft, it tears a
Right.
little bit.
You
Yeah.
need a little space for the glue anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've used Gorilla Glue a few times, Mark, but I've had it fail and I didn't like that.
I've never had it fail. As long as you let it sit overnight.
Yep.
When that white foam comes out, it's solid.
Yeah. I
Are
like
you
Gorilla
roughing
Glue.
up your pen tubes with sandpaper first?
You
I
do
do,
that,
yes.
Always.
and then you have
Always.
to wet the tubes to activate the Gorilla Glue.
Correct.
Right.
I always roll them in just like a little tissue or something that's damp.